I'm Marcia Parker.
Fuego here.
Susie Von Slaughter.
I'm Cecil Laird, and we're back for another episode of Get to Know the Horror Show. You guys actually reacted much better than we thought you would to the first episode of Get to Know the Horror Show, which was just, what are our day jobs?
You like us. You really like us.
Wow.
Maybe.
We were completely shocked.
Yeah,
I wasn't shocked. I know
you know you're super interesting.
Yeah, everybody wants to know what's behind the mask.
That's right,
Absolutely.
because MPH is
With a
hashtag
hat,
awesome.
So we appreciate your guys' interest in this. Thank you very much. It's cool to know that we're not doing this in a vacuum. We see the commenters, but the fact that you're interested in us, that's nice. That is the direction we want the show to go. Because again, the horror show started off just covering everything horror, but it has evolved into a 4+ person family at this point. We think at this point, watching us do something is watching the horror show do something, and that's, horror enough for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
So we appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's a very long way to say it. I'm definitely not known to be long-winded, but
Thanks,
it does
guys.
happen occasionally.
Well, no, and you're all part of the horror show community at this point, which is why the amount of comments we got was really BA, and that just shows
You're all our horror shites. Wait
a minute. Y'all are the horror show shiznittle bam snip snap snips.
This is going
oh
so
my god!
fast.
I hope that, I hope neither
Holy
one of those
shit.
catches on.
Just because I have the hair like that.
Wow. Okay.
All right, let's get to the
anyway.
first question. All right. So the first one we're going to do, you guys, we're going to separate every question into its own episode because we can go on for a bit and we don't want to bore you all
And when he
your
says
asses
he
off.
means him.
Ran into a bit of a glitch. We don't want to bore your asses off. So the first question is going to come from the what do you call it? Quartet. There you go. The quartet of viewers.
Wow.
The names of. In case you don't know how this works, Fuego and I got together a little earlier and filmed the horror show News with Booze just a little bit ago.
Don't call us out,
I'm still coming down from that. Bear with me. So the first question comes from Dawn of the Thread, as well as Thomas Dodson, as well as Brian Snyder, as well as Devin Beaumont. Forgive me if I mispronounce any of those
Butchered
words.
the
It
fuck
could
out
be
of
could be
those.
Beaumont, Boomal, Boomal, I don't know. But
valiant attempt nonetheless.
exactly. All of you guys wanted to know a similar thing, which was essentially, how did we meet? And one of you, I believe it was Brian Snyder, asked how many people are on the show. I will answer that real quick. And that is to say, there is a number of us. We are what I call the main cast.
We are the core.
We are
The
the
Big
core
Four.
hosts, the Fab Four, the Big Four, whatever you want to say.
Call me fat.
We are.
I
I didn't say
prefer
fat.
Fab.
I said Fab. not
PHAT,
fat.
pretty hot and tempting.
But we are the main four of the channel, the main four hosts. We're going to get to how we met in just a second, but as to how many people are on the show, we have regular contributors, I would say, that are cast members as well. We have, of course, Andrew Mercer,
Oh, yeah.
who is a huge behind-the-scenes player as well
Hashtag Snapchat.
as on location player. He's been in all of our Let's Plays of Resident Evil, as well as a bunch of different reviews.
He's a co-producer.
He's been in our most watched video of all time, which is our Black Coat's Daughter review. So Andrew is an indispensable player, which is why he's
Dropping
on the
knowledge.
credits at the very beginning if you pay close attention. But in addition to that, we have regular contributor Lou.
Yeah, Luis Hernandez, my homie. She actually knew him too, which is
I
what was
did.
kind of ironic. They worked at the Rob Zombie scare thing together, right?
Horror
Yeah.
unites us all.
He was my favorite clown.
What does he live up to?
Second favorite.
He's got a fantastic laugh.
Can't
He's got a clown laugh.
exclude Cynthia, but anyways, Scott.
Yeah, so that was kind of a weird. He knew her, and I started working with him, and I was like, dude, you know your stuff. Let's bring you on board. So he's a frequent bit of a knowledge dropper as well, which is cool.
Absolutely. We've also had Ms. Brandy Bain on here as well, which she will be a part of another question that we get to a little bit later. So,
Really?
well, perhaps she will, perhaps not. Who knows?
We'll
but
see.
she's a regular contributor.
Hashtag hottie.
But she knows her horror stuff as well. Of course, we have producer Dave, who has been a part of this. He essentially created this show with me. He is a very busy guy. He deals with an awful lot, so we appreciate any time we can get with him, but he is absolutely indispensable to the channel. and his opinions are valued. He is more Ash-centric a lot of times, so we snag him whenever we can, but he's a big behind-the-scenes player as well. So that is another person. We just added someone. Susie, you want to tell who we just added recently?
He's a very, very great friend of mine. His name is Ian. He actually used to have... What?
He's a man of many
He goes
names.
by Kane.
He's a man of many names,
Start from
remember?
there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
On
All right.
yeah, we'll start again.
Oh, that's what
Okay.
he prefers?
Okay. He's a very good friend of mine. He goes by Kane. He used to be part of a very, very big YouTube channel that unfortunately, or fortunately, probably in his case, is no longer.
It's a tech-based channel.
Yes, tech-based channel. He would get recognized everywhere. It was crazy when I went to go visit in New York and I saw him, and people when we at Phoenix Comic Con, people saw him and knew who he was. And so when his channel kind of took a dive, I knew that he'd be a great contribution to our channel. And so I asked him if he'd be a part of it, and he was like, fuck yeah. And so I was like, yeah, that's what I like. And so he's all
Fuck
on
yeah,
board.
Cecil.
And so, yeah.
Pretty much.
So we had a meeting. He was all about it. And I'm super, super excited to see where that goes as well, because I know it's only going to be like positive.
So look for
us.
more Kane appearances. He's in fact on his way here now to
Yes,
film
he
some
is.
reactions with us later and some podcasts and whatnot. And of course we have to talk about Miss Brittany Lee, who has joined recently as well. She is a regular contributor and perhaps a part of another episode later on as well. But she has been a horror fan for quite a while. She's been watching it with her mom for a long time. And she just has some interesting opinions. I thought she'd be a fun addition. So she has jumped on. And who else do we need to bring up?
Maybe Dirk, man.
Oh,
Dirk,
yeah,
absolutely. Dirk is actually a longtime contributor. He first jumped
Dirk's
on
awesome.
speaking with me specifically about some horror comics. He was one of the early horror comic contributors with me before Fuego and I started to do a regular horror comics review. So shout out to Dirk. He has jumped on a couple of times. He's been in, I think, a television reaction as well. He was on, I think, an Ash. Maybe he did the Ash Walking Dead premiere with us, I believe.
know he's
so he
done
might
a
have been
few
on a
of those,
couple
yeah.
of them. But anyway, Dirk is a regular contributor as well. So this all goes to say that we have a lot of people that contribute to the show. Yes.
I have a group of people I want to mention.
Mhm.
They come to almost all of our reactions when
Mhm.
it comes to like the TV shows. CBNU.
Who
We
you
got
talking about, brah?
Ashley Mall, and
Liz Ward,
Liz
CJ
Warren,
Valenzuela,
Yes, yes.
Rose Tiggs.
Yes.
And then occasionally we get visits from the Jasons.
Jason Chamberlain, my
or,
fellow brother.
Liz's connection, Robbie, he shows up
Yeah.
too. So we
a really big fun group,
Mhm.
and we appreciate all of them whenever they come in and join in. It's a super fun time.
Absolutely.
And we met them through the Comic-Con,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
we did.
Doing
As a matter of
panels and
fact.
whatnot.
Yeah, doing panels, and well, I was a part of their Facebook group. I actually connected with CJ long ago over Venom. In a very horror way, because Venom is a lethal protector. He is a murderer in the Marvel Universe. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's get into how we met, though, because this is going to be a long episode already.
True.
So, how did we actually meet? Now, it all essentially, well, for Marcia and I, it starts before the horror show.
Oh, wait.
So
before.
let's start with that. Now, producer Dave and I have been friends since we were literally in preschool together. We went to Kachina Country Day here in Arizona, and so at 3 years old, we connected, and we've been friends ever since.
How far we
So,
going back? Way back.
33 years
I'm
now.
going to do a reenactment of that when you guys
I imagine it was...
So we're going to have two little kids with two giant froze on their heads.
Just basically, yeah, two giant, like white guy froze that basically are like, what do you watch? So, stuff like that. But anyway, so I've known Dave for a very long time, and there's a whole How Did the Horror Show Start, which will be a different episode. But yeah, I actually met Marcia Parker through Dave. Marcia, why don't you tell how it happened? Because if I try and tell it, you'll tell me I'm wrong.
Okay, so I met Dave through film school. It's really funny because when I first met him, I was like, oh, who's this guy? He thinks he knows everything. And then we actually worked on a
You
project
could
together.
say that about me as well.
Yeah.
That's why they got along so well.
But we worked together, and I was like, this guy is fantastic. And we ended up becoming roommates, and he just kept bringing all these movies and shows because we didn't believe in cable. I didn't believe in paying for cable. So I was like, where are you getting all of these DVDs? And he's like, you should come hang out with my friend Drew. and I did.
Yes, I also
sorry.
go by Drew in my earlier. My name is Cecil Andrew Laird, and for the first 20 plus years of my life, I went by Drew. And then when I got to college, I just decided to stop correcting every professor I had and just go by Cecil. And so from then on, I remained as Cecil. So.
Nobody knows my aliases, though, of which there are many.
I do. So his real name is...
For another episode and another time, perhaps.
You know someone's going to ask now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't want to know.
Yeah, so anyway, so he brought me over to Cecil's house, and we bonded over Guitar Hero.
Is that what it was?
It was, yeah.
Was it the Sting song that I loved so much that got me into Guitar Hero, which was SOS?
I think
Sending
so.
out an
Yeah.
SOS.
It was a very entertaining evening. There was a lot of singing. There was a lot of guitars.
That was the same one when Devil Went Down to Georgia, right? As like the boss battle. at the
Might have
end?
been.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
That's
Rage
how
Against
Marcia and I
Machines
met.
on there.
So Marcia ended up being sort of a very, close soul, as it were.
Mm.
Like, we like a lot of the same stuff, including the fact that we both like Highlander. And I'm actually
doesn't like
trekking
Highlander?
through on Marcia's podcast, which is in a revamp mode right now. But we have gone through a number of Highlander TV episodes, and we're going to continue. So Marcia and I have been longtime friends, and I essentially started asking her for help with the horror show at some point along the way. And I think it began with some of our earliest episodes with the very first Zed the Zombie Hunter.
It was actually before
blood
that.
makeup,
But
right?
was Scream Queens first?
Scream Queens was the very first.
Okay. Go ahead, please. Explain what Scream Queens was.
So, Scream... Okay, let me tell you this.
Because this actually leads into how two more people met.
Right, because this is how me and Susie actually met. But I get a call from him. We're doing Scream Queen. Show up with your best exercise outfit or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. So
Scream Queen School is
Right.
one of our earliest. We have about 8 horror comedy sketches that I
Right.
wrote and directed and happened to act in this one. And,
Yeah.
and this was Marcia's first appearance, and it
Yeah.
actually birthed a personality.
Yeah.
So please continue.
Okay, so Scream Queens is basically a boot camp for ladies who want to be a Scream Queen, and then at the end we reveal who the winner is. But so I show up in like the brightest pink shirt and I think
It
regular
was
pants, and I
amazing.
had a headband on that was like super blue.
You had rainbow socks on too, right?
I
Didn't
don't
you?
think so. I think I was just like
No,
so
you had
colored
rainbow
out.
something. You
Did
had
I?
rainbow,
I think you did.
like
I
a
think it was
wristband.
my
It was your headband. Okay.
It was my headband.
Because you
and
brought
I
the
had, like,
personality,
bright
and I
shoes.
named you in the sketch.
Yeah, he named me Rainbow, and that's because I was like, well, everybody else was wearing black.
That's not true.
Especially- no, you were wearing
You
black
were
for
wearing
You
sure.
said everyone else. Yes, I for sure was wearing black, but everyone else was not
Wearing
black.
darker clothes and just a little bit, like, they were not standing out. Like, I was a sore thumb, so I was like, all right, well, I guess I just solved my personality for this. So I ended up being super bubbly and awful at everything, and it worked, and we created Rainbow Rules out of that. But it was the first time I met Susie. I remember her walking in, pregnant, with attitude, just
To
like,
spare.
this bitch, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to get to know this girl.
And mind you, I was a fly on the wall for this because of the fact that I was a fan of the show at the time, and so that was cool to see.
So we'll get to Fuego's involvement, but Susie, what were your first impressions of Marcia when you met her?
Well, now that I know that, no, I thought, I remember that. I met her, it's like, okay, she's in rainbow shit. All right, I can get past that. It's okay. But
I can get past that.
it wasn't until this girl, when it came out of her mouth. So if you watch the sketch, you have to watch the sketch to know what I'm talking about. We were talking about what we thought of Lungs Biggerstaff. And her comment, she's like, he reminds me a lot of my stepdad, but without the touching. In that moment, I fell in love with this girl.
That was not scripted.
No, it was not. It was all her, like, all 100%. And I even told her, I was like, that was amazing. I can't believe that just came out of your mouth. I love you.
I think we clearly have to link Scream Queen School to the end of this
Damn
episode.
right.
Yes,
So.
and
It was the
so
mustache
and
that
so
solidified it.
yeah. So later on,
That was when I was plus
Actually-
about 40 pounds too.
no, actually, when we were looking for another, because we had taken out a female,
Right.
and then
Dun,
we
dun,
needed a
dun.
new one. I was like, Marcia, I want Marcia on. I was like, I want Marcia on the show.
It was a very
I
natural
want her on the-
transition.
Yeah,
So
I
just-
was like, want Marcia on the show.
So let's back up just real quick, since we have Marcia and Susie's meeting and mine and Marcia's meeting. Let's do mine and Susie's meeting, which was the very beginning of the horror show, essentially, when we initially first, David and I were trying to put it together, and we put out a casting call, and there were two girls that showed up. That was Miss Susie Von Slaughter and Ms. Morgan, who both got the job, essentially. So Morgan was on the channel for about a year, maybe a year and a half or so, and then she moved on, and Susie stayed on, thank goodness, because Susie was an indispensable portion of the show. Her personality, as you guys all know at this point, is definitely unique. But that's where I met her. It was great because she was obviously a British woman with balls. And I was like, oh, that'll fit in just nicely. Like that'll be a great voice to have for the show. And then it was only confirmed when I had her on some early podcasts. The very first, I think it was episode number 2 called Von Slaughter Me, when we get Susie's deep background. You guys check that out because there's some stuff going on with Susie that we don't ever reference except for in that podcast that will give you sort of a new understanding for the triumph that is this woman right here. So definitely go check out podcast number 2, Von Slaughter Me, and you'll learn a lot. But I have been grateful for her involvement ever since.
And I was grateful for her involvement too, for the sheer fact that
She
wouldn't
brought him
be here
in.
Oh,
not
Exactly.
for this
Me,
girl.
right?
Perfect
No,
bridges.
I
Perfect
thought it was really great because when I was told about it, I was actually told by Morgan about it.
Mhm.
She's like, I thought you'd be great on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember.
So we are always grateful to Morgan
this,
for
this
that.
is great. This is great. I just remember sitting there because this is kind of the funny thing. So I'm sitting at the computer, ready and typing out like, "Hi, I'm interested in being on the show." As I'm sitting there, looking down at this giant belly,
just
because at the time I was
pregnant
pregnant.
with number 2.
See, and
That was 3 babies ago.
And it's funny, I was sitting there, I was like, do I tell him that I'm pregnant? Because I didn't want it to be judged on that. I didn't want it to be based on that I didn't want an automatic no, because, pregnancy is not forever. Or I thought. So,
It keeps
Only
going
3
and
years
going
long
and
in
going.
this case.
so I was like, no, I don't think I should tell him. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
And
Whatever. I'm like, I'm still the same person. It's not a big deal.
Just amped up a little.
Yeah, and whatever. So
Plus 1.
I just remember when I showed up and they saw me and the looks on their face and they had no idea who I was. And I just show up, makeup all done, and then pregnant bitch walk in and they're just kind of like, hi. And they were,
And then we looked at her stomach.
and then I could tell, like, they could tell that they were kind of like, oh, fuck. Like, oh, okay, well, okay, let's see what you can do. And then they had me kind of, do a really quick,
Like a reading of
like,
some
yeah, a
kind.
reading. And
With
so.
news maybe, or a
I
review
don't remember
of
what
some
it
kind,
was,
something
but-
like that, yeah.
It was really quick and for my audition, and they were like blown away. They're like, "Holy crap, you can actually do
You're
this!"
very natural.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I was
remember.
like, "So I didn't want to say anything."
Boom.
But yeah. So that's how it's done. I just remember that. Just like they're like, "Hi." I'm like, "Hey, what's up? Don't mind this.
What up, yo?
Won't be here." Or so I thought. So anyway, but yeah. So that's how I met Cecil and David. Now. Segue to this fine gentleman right here. So now, as some of you may know, Jaime and I used to be on a show called...
We were VJs, basically.
we
We'll
were
just
VJs.
say that.
We
Yeah.
were VJs on an internet
Ooh,
television
okay.
channel
Mhm.
called Heavy Metal Television. And I was on that show for a while, and Jaime had come on. I think you came in through the auditions.
I did.
We
Through
had
these
it-
guys.
we had
Zia
s-
Records.
Yes, through
Aw.
Zia, we had our Heavy Metal Television had auditions at Zia Records, and I remember that because I was wearing my corset and my
You had
high
your
heels,
spike bra going on,
my
girl.
spike bra, and this one was all about it. But anyway,
I took notice, but
he
took
took
notice.
notice. So he came on the
how
channel.
could I not?
And
So
so
Jaime.
after that, we worked together, and then he actually found out that I was a part of the horror show, and he just kind of, so discreetly would drop me kind of like, hey, I love horror. I used to
Little
write
hints here.
and so he would send me stuff, he would talk to me, and he was like, I love horror. I used to write for this and this and that. Like, I would love to be a part of it. And so...
Which is really cool because at the time we had like 50 or 100 subscribers or something, like not much. So
Right,
it
and
was still
so
cool.
Well,
I
and
had
also we'd
actually-
only interacted that one time at the auditions, and then everything from there, because we filmed separately,
Right.
and so the channel was in its infancy at the time for both horror show and heavy metal
Right.
television.
Right, and so, he showed genuine interest, and the stuff that he sent me, it was, pretty, impressive. It was pretty impressive, everything that he showed. I was like, you know what, this guy actually knows his shit. I think he would actually, he's great on camera, he can talk, he's a really nice guy. And so I brought it up to this guy. We were talking about adding another male figure
Host,
to
yeah.
to the channel. And so I was like, hey,
Actually, I don't even know if we were so much as you're like, hey, I know this guy that's really good on camera, and
well, that's it. He was just so adamant.
I was a fanboy. I
Just
was commenting
so
on every video of the
single
first
thing,
season.
Every
No.
single thing that we did, he's just like, this is awesome, and he kept sending me messages. I would love to be a part of this. And so I loved his
Oh
enthusiasm.
my god, those early reviews are so terrible. Guys, here's the thing. Just
I
as
was
a little
persistent.
side note, our early reviews we acknowledge were rough. Like, they were choppy as all hell because I didn't really know how to edit back then. And not only that, but we were in the midst of editing our season 3 reviews, which are essentially from a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now. So you're going to be seeing some reviews going forward that are going to be really old looking. That's why, just as a fair warning. But go ahead.
We all start, it's baby steps, whatever. So
Exactly.
anyway,
Yeah.
so
And
I
we
brought it up
improve.
to Cecil, and I was like, hey, I know this guy. He's really awesome. He's great on camera. He knows his shit. Like, this is all he's done. I think he'd be a really good asset to the show. So, bring him in. I think it was you guys met at Comic-Con.
Yes.
Was it?
Was
We had-
Mad Monster,
We
wasn't
had
it?
briefly
Mad
met
Monster?
at Mad Monster,
That's
but we'd
right.
seen each other for the first time when I was cosplaying as Sweet at Comic-Con, and
Mhm.
then
Yeah,
Mad
so-
Monster was a week later, back in
Oh,
2014.
that's right. That's right.
And
they were
then
so close.
After we hit it off and got to actually talk at Mad Monster, that's when Susie brought me in. After we had a production meeting at former, I guess she was the former production manager, Phoenix Romero. She was the one we had just had a production meeting for Heavy Metal Television, and you're like, what are you doing right now? I was like, well, I'm just going to drive back to Phoenix because they're all in Mesa, Tempe, kind of.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so you said, you want to come do a podcast? And I was like, yeah, why not? And that's when we solidified everything. And after, that was kind of a testing the waters, I imagined. And when things went well with that,
I always
it was
test
called-
the waters with podcasts.
it was called Heavy Metal Horror, the podcast number. Which one, Marcia Parker?
36.
Yes, she knows. She got that podcast.
No, it might be
was
like
a
number
really fun
14
one.
or something.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Anyway, but yeah, so we solidified our coolness. We talked scripts. We talked about the fact that we both had a similar idea about the Superstition Mountains.
Yeah,
and
but now we
all
can't get
kinds
him
of
to shut up.
coolness. I've always been guilty of monopolizing conversations, as I heard from my English teacher back in 10th grade. So,
That's hilarious. As far back as that.
Oh,
Wow.
It's
wow.
always been there. It's
That
unfortunately the way that I'm
says a
wired.
lot.
So, but I was very humbled and just I've been blessed to have the opportunity to work with these awesome peeps. And I was brought on full time for the second season, and we filmed in August of 2014. And things
It was
just
good to have
kinda
another guy to
gone from
lean
there.
on, and he definitely knew his stuff. And not only that, but in the second season, we cranked out some of our funniest comedy sketches
yeah.
too.
Which is when I met her.
The Hell News
Yeah.
Network was the one I was going to talk about. That one was excellent, where Fuego played the devil delivering the news from hell, or at least commentating on the surface news from hell. So is that's the final piece of the puzzle? Is that how you guys met?
It is, because you asked me to come in to help and do some filming and doing reviews for that season, and then Jaime was there, And it's really funny.
Was I in the makeup already when you showed
Because
up?
I wasn't official yet, but I was like, helping out and doing all this stuff. And the first time I saw your name come through the chat, I was like, who's this bitch? I thought it was a girl.
Jamie! Long hair. I was shaved at the time.
Just so y'all know, I have
That's
selective
hilarious.
reading. Like,
Oh my God.
I really do. So
No
I'm
matter
like, who
what
is
you
this?
write, she's gonna read what she wants out of it.
I don't know. It's really weird. So anyway, so I show up and I was like, oh, Jaime. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And I
Who's
was
this blonde bitch?
I was super, because I was like, what? He brought another girl and he couldn't ask me. But anyways, but the hair, no. When I saw you and I saw what a trooper you were, going through the makeup, and you're just so professional and you brought such a great dynamic to the team, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And later, shortly, I was able to take my role as the fourth.
Oh, and I'd seen Marcia go pro too before because was it either the fake blood or the zombie?
No, it was a
effect
zombie. It was
stuff that
we
I had
did we
seen?
did her up as a zombie twice
There was
because
a
the first
how-to.
episode we lost.
Okay.
We did a whole
Yeah.
how-to.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I saw
we,
her on even
no,
before Scream
we
Queens.
made her up as a zombie as the first Zed the Zombie Hunter sketch,
Mhm.
which we lost.
Right.
That got corrupted, or we just lost the footage, or I taped over it, or something. But then we had to redo it, and when we redid it, we filmed the zombie making process and made that our first how-to as well.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah.
the first time I ever saw her. So I had seen Marcia even before she walked in that day when we were at Wargo SWAT HD Studios.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
the sun camera.
So I think we're running out of time, guys. I think
Yeah.
that's the place to wrap it up. That is how we all met, and is also the people that regularly contribute on the show. If we missed anyone, which is possible, the amount of people we have on the show, we apologize. But if
love
you're
all of
interested in contributing and you're in the Arizona area, reach out to us because we like talking to different horror people. We talk to regular horror artists in the local area all the time. So thank you guys very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Susie Von Slaughter.
Gracias, I've been having Fuego.
And until the next Get to Know the Horror show, remember,
Stay
stay scared.
Like, share, subscribe.